Hi everyone. Thank you to those who have joined us so far. We will just wait a couple of minutes whilst everybody gets signed up, just to give you a bit of information about the event and how you can interact with us. Feel free to add comments into the comment section. So we'll monitor these throughout the event. If you're on LinkedIn or on YouTube, you can add whatever comments you would like into that section. But yeah, we'll just wait a little bit longer and get everybody onto the stream. Great, so we are going to get started. Hi everyone, my name is Alice Chance. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. If you do have to miss the event for whatever reason, or you have to buzz off, feel free to send me an email. We will be recording this event, it'll go straight onto YouTube. But yeah, my name is Alice Chance and I am the careers coach at Manchester and Leeds Codes. We decided to put this event on today as diversity and inclusion is something that we're really passionate about at Leeds Codes. Myself and my colleague Kirsty Devlin, it's a regular conversation that we have with one another and how we can create, I guess, more inclusive opportunities within the tech industry. And it's a discussion that we love to have with one another and we love to have with other people, which is why we've put this event on today. So I am going to introduce you all to our lovely speakers. So I'm going to hand you over to Chisholm first, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Alice. My name is Chisholm Chinero, and I was one of the graduates from Coding Future. Coding Future is a bootcamp in Birmingham. Coding Bootcamp focuses on training people, mostly asylum seekers and women, pretty much everyone, help you get into tech. So I just recently graduated and I managed to get myself a job as a software engineer with Capgemini. So,
which is very good news. So well done about that, because I've not actually said that to you yet. Well done.
Thank you. So yeah, that's me.
I'll go next because I always like talking. Hi, I'm Gwen Henderson. I am the Head of Innovation at Crisis, the homeless charity. Before that, I was the Entrepreneur Engagement Manager at Tech Nation, covering the whole of Yorkshire. And diversity and inclusion is a big passion of mine. In fact, when Alice was doing a podcast in her former role, I think I was her first guest, and we had we had some amazing conversations about homelessness and also trans rights. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that a bit more today.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jem.
Shall I go next?
Yeah, thanks, Victoria.
So I'm Victoria. I'm HR and employee engagement specialist. I head up a tech startup called Space HR, and we use WhatsApp to capture employee feedback and drive engagement. So a lot of the work that I do around diversity and inclusion is how that impacts on employee engagement and employee culture.
Great, thank you. And Aisha too. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Aishatu, and I run a health coaching service in Wigan called Idaraya Life, which provides inclusive support for women to get them to be physically active. And aside from that, I also work as a freelance service designer, which is where I know Alice from, because she was one of the industry superpowers who came through to support while I was completing the Agile Immersion Bootcamp with Diverse and Equal. So yeah, it's great to be here. I wear many hats, but those are the two that are relevant to this space today.
You wear a lot of hats, but yeah, no, that's great. And superpower, that was very nice of you to say. Cool, so I'm going to start off with, I guess, just, and you've all kind of slightly answered it a bit, but like, what does diversity and inclusion mean to you all? And like, I guess, why are you so passionate about it? I don't know who would like to go first. If you'd like to pop a hand up, if you want to go first, Jem, go ahead. You got it.
So for me, diversity and inclusion is about it's not even just about equality. It's about equity. It's about making sure that everybody is given the tools that they need to survive and thrive in their workspace and in their lives. So it might mean that you have to give do a little bit more to help somebody get into the workplace, but that's what they need, that's what they require, and that's what we should be doing as standard.
Great. Thanks.
So for me, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, I think it's so important that people are aware of the fact that diversity is in thought as opposed to just like visual diversity, which seems like a given, but honestly, it's just amazing what I've been exposed to the more I've entered the space of working to provide equity and in diversity and inclusion. So for me, I think it's so important because aside from the fact that you provide a richer experience with the people you are engaged with because you've got that diversity, it's just the right thing to do in life. No one should be excluded from a particular space because they are who they are. You know, like it's a thing of we're all on this planet together, so there should be space for us to just be ourselves and not be scared of that.
Oh, great answer. That was really nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say the way I see diversity, for me, it means like, you know, we know that people are from different walks of life, different cultures, different backgrounds. So it's like, for me, it's a place where you're working and you don't feel like you're different in your workplace. You know, so
definitely.
you are working, you feel like a family, you know, wherever you come from, whatever your sex, your age, you know, your background, your culture, wherever you come from, you work together as a team and don't feel any different from the team. That's what it means for me.
I think for me, it's about that fundamental belief that having people from different beliefs, thoughts, experiences, backgrounds absolutely creates a stronger, healthier organization. You know, it's where creativity flows and innovation flows, and you know, and whenever I read those kind of articles that talk about, oh, you know, here's the business case for diversity, I always groan because I just think, oh my God, you know, it's just the right thing to do, isn't it? But actually, you know, it comes from that kind of fundamental belief that we're stronger together.
Yeah.
Definitely. Some great points raised there, guys. Thank you. So working in a diverse workforce is something I'm not involved in, but I am now working in a really diverse workforce, and I love it. And it's something I guess I've realised I haven't been as much so in the past, and I really realise that difference. But what benefits have you guys seen from working in like a diverse team?
I'll go first to save Jem from having to do it. The main benefit that I found is that life is just easier. I don't know how to because, for example, within my social enterprise, my co-directors are very different to me in thought, even though we actually share almost the same backgrounds as far as ethnicity, but they're very in different stages of their lives and very different in the way that I see things. And whereas I would think I've got a final solution to do something, I think it's great and I have evidence to support it, they just come with their own different thoughts, and they're able to provide a perspective that, for all my open-mindedness, I just wouldn't see, because I consider myself to be a very open-minded person, and that can automatically sometimes sort of like box you into almost always thinking you're right, because you are that open-minded person. And so having someone who's different to me means that the service that I provide is better by default, because someone else, I'm not trying to think for them, and I'm not trying to think on their behalf and make assumptions or try to do work that I wouldn't by just asking other people. I can get a different point of view rather than trying to forcibly place myself in certain positions to consider other people's points of view, even though you should do that anyway. It's just easier when other people do it.
It's nice to be challenged. I like being challenged on things. And I think people are afraid to challenge people, but I personally love being challenged. I love an argument, not even an argument, we'll call it a debate. But I've got an answer for most things. And I like to be challenged. I like hearing different people's point of views. And I think I said yesterday, I'm so fed up of seeing events. It's like, join like-minded group of people. And it's like, I don't want to join a like-minded group of people. I want to meet people I'm not going to meet in my normal everyday life. I want to broaden my horizons and speak to new people. And I think for me, that's a really big benefit of having a diverse workforce.
Do you know, it's one of the reasons why, sorry to talk over you, it's one of the reasons why I'm on Twitter, and I know a lot of people dodge Twitter because it can be quite a toxic place. But for me, that's a really great way of me hearing voices outside of my immediate sphere of influence. And I'll kind of really purposefully engage and connect with people that I probably don't agree with or whatever, so that because that's a different voice to my own, and that kind of helps me.
Yeah, definitely. I think social media is big. Like, you just follow the people that you like, or people that you know, and you create like an echo chamber of yourself, and it's just like, I find it boring.
The statistics are there to prove the benefits of the diverse workforce. So companies that have a better gender representation are 20% more profitable, and those workforces that have a better ethnic diversity are 35%. But and I think that's a lovely start, and I think it's great, and it's that carrot which brings people along. But I think when we're talking to executive boards at organizations and we're having to go, but think of the money, it kind of makes me feel a bit pained, to be honest, because we shouldn't just be thinking about money. We should be thinking about people. Like,
it's icky. It's like, I shouldn't have to tell you that your business will be better because you've got a diverse workforce. You should just want to do it. It should just be embedded within your system of the organization. Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's the benefits. Nowadays we all know mostly everyone, all restaurants are. I'm just gonna probably just talk about a little bit about what's happened in the restaurant industry, because I work as a chef. Everybody knows about TripAdvisor. So before you go to a restaurant, you look at TripAdvisor and all that.
Always.
Company, this restaurant, they've got a good reputation and all that. Diversity in the company benefits. You get a good reputation, business reputation. People recognize you. Oh, this is a company, that focuses on diversity, inclusion, and all that. How about the money? You get better money because you are sourcing, because you are a diverse company, you source for the best. You're not looking at, this person is coming from this place, I don't want to employ somebody like this. But you're looking at the talents that they've got. What have they got to bring to you as a company? That way, you're making you're getting best of both worlds. You get the reputation, you get the money, you get the best talent people in the world. That's what happens when you are diverse.
Definitely. And I think your workforce and the people that you have there, that's who you're going to attract as well. Like, I know a lot of the time you go onto a website and you see all the people, say we look at the board members of a company, or you look at all the people in their like senior team, and you're like, oh, that's the same face repeated about 60 times or whatever. I wouldn't personally apply there, and I just think, I think you'd grow yourself such a better team if you have that diverse representation from the top as well.
I think some organizations kid themselves with that, though. They'll have a values page on their careers website that talks about, diversity and inclusion, or whatever the words is that they've chosen. And then you go and do a bit of digging in their board or whatever, and you find the complete opposite, and the words and the music don't match.
That's true.
But
often that you see that.
The VP went to Cambridge and the president went to Oxford.
Oh my God. I feel at home.
Two completely opposing views.
Very true. Very true. Cool. So this is a big question, and I guess it's if it's something that you've seen personally, if it's something you heard about, I've got things I can speak on about this. So it's, what are some of the problems that you've seen that are limiting organizations to create inclusive cultures? So I'll go first with this one, because I guess from a recruitment background and the practices I saw within recruitment, some of them were awful. They were really bad. They were really limiting to people who had names that were sort of British, people who, mothers that wanted to work part-time, people who had disabilities, whether that was invisible disabilities or physical disabilities, and access issues. There's so many limitations, I think. And I think, like you said, companies just sort of pretend that they're on this diverse and inclusive pathway and they're gonna open doors to people, but it doesn't seem to happen actually within the core of the business. I imagine it's a bit of a HR issue, and was one of the reasons I was a bit disgusted with some of the companies I was working with as a recruiter. I was just like, I don't want to work with them because it's awful. They're not nice people. And a lot of the time they were either racist, sexist, or just, they weren't right. And for me, I think a big issue was, I guess, or a solution to that was anonymizing CVs. And I think that's something that the government do now. So all CVs are sent over anonymously. But I don't know, that's something you probably have more information on, Victoria, than me.
Yeah, I think, but even CVs can be problematic.
Yeah.
You could be an incredible sales individual. You might be incredible at sales, but you might not be great at spelling, for example.
Yeah.
And actually, we will automatically sift out that CV for somebody who could probably benefit our organisation massively on the basis that there's typos and they haven't formatted their CV in a way that fits what we think is the right way.
Definitely.
And I know I'm not kind of providing you with any solutions there, but
no, it's fine. It's hard.
It is.
The solution is people need to change their ways. People need to change their mindset. There isn't.
Yeah, and I think
that's what I was going to get to.
If in HR, if I had £1 for every time I'd heard, but we hired the best people from the from the candidates that we've got, and that kind of is meant to explain away that you've just appointed another, white middle-aged male to your board.
That just negates an understanding of what best actually means, because if you think best means best on paper, that isn't actually true, because best on paper is just a lie. Yes, they might have gone to Cambridge or Oxford, and that has limited their experience, to be honest, when it comes to actually being out in the workplace. I think one of the main problems when it comes to creative, inclusive cultures is the people that are put in charge of doing that, the exec sponsor, the managers. If you're not living and breathing diversity and inclusion, if you're not baking it into who you are as a person, if you're not doing the reading, doing the work, I've got the tattoo, do the work, it's really important. And I think that is the thing that limits us, where those people that are put in charge of the D&I stuff aren't necessarily haven't got that wide range of experience, aren't making it it's top down, and like diversity and inclusion shouldn't be top down, it should be bottom up. It should be like listening to people's experiences and then making the organization wider to incorporate all of those experiences.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was gonna say as well, for a company to create diversity and inclusion as part of their culture, some companies are just lazy. When I say lazy, is that they don't want to, allocate resources, training, these things will attract the right kind of candidates, but you need to invest in these people, you need to invest for you to get the best out of people. So don't be lazy, don't just, put people in one box. You need to widen out, you need to do some work, like I said, I work in the kitchen. If you want a good tasty meal, you have to spend the money.
Yes.
So, I
like that
metaphor. If you want a good food, it tastes nice and all that, you have to spend the money. So if you want the best in your company, you have to spend the money as well. You have to invest in these people and get the best out of them. That's it. So don't be lazy. That's it from me.
I would only highlight the mentality, the mindset piece of it, really, because if something isn't policy, we know that in the capitalist space that we're in, there is no sense of obligation to it. If it's not policy to do something, then that's just another thing that they're saving money not doing. So you then go back to who is it that's actually creating and drafting these policies, and what checks are the policies in an organization going through. And if they're being managed by people who have the mental models that, we should hire whoever's best for the job, and if they incidentally all happen to come from South England and are between the ages of 25 and 45 when they start, that just happens to be the thing. And if you're fine with that, no matter whatever anyone says and all the business benefits and all of that stuff. When you're writing your policies, you're not going to be adamant, as you say, like that, oh, you have to ensure you broaden your horizons. You're not going to put that in policy. And if it's not in policy, even when people do want to make the changes and do want to put the work in, it's hard to then make the argument for the finances and the resources to be put in that direction, because it's sort of, it's not part of their priority. So a big thing for me is always like, I think a big block is that there was a lot of dishonesty that's allowed to just sit and exist, in that, as Victoria said before, people saying that, oh, we're diverse, like diversity and inclusion is one of our main values, but they're not. And people don't call things like that out. And because it's not called out, there's sort of like no almost instigation to do something about it. And so nothing really shifts. And even the people who may be willing, there's just like the motivation, there's no fire up there, so and so, to do something. So yeah.
No, I agree. That was a very good point. It has to be embedded into a company from the beginning, I think, a lot of the time as well, or they need to really like break down the walls of the business as a whole and really look at the whole organization rather than just little concentrated groups, which I think happens quite a lot. So the next question, which I think we kind of covered just then, but do you believe current hiring and recruitment processes limit people from underrepresented groups?
Yes.
Yeah. Next question.
100%.
I definitely think they can do. You've got to have a thoughtful recruitment process. So at Crisis, we really like it when people who apply for the work have got lived experience of homelessness. I have lived experience of homelessness, was one of the reasons why I'm good at my job. But we have that on the application form. We also have additional support for people that might be neurodiverse, that might struggle with hiring with that kind of application bit. But I actually think we should go further than that. I think we should be doing things like sending out the job interview questions before we interview candidates, to give them the opportunity to prepare themselves effectively, because lots of people don't. Loads of people at school didn't do very well in exams because it was like, I don't really know, I have to cover everything. We need to look at that bit. Well, actually, why don't we make sure that the things that we can get a real understanding for what people are doing, because they've had the time to prepare with what they're going to tell us.
You're going to know if they're going to be telling the truth. You're going to know if their answers are sincere or not, because you can just ask a little question extra on it. Like, I feel like people are afraid to do that, because they're just going to get someone else to write their answers for them. And it's like, no one's actually going to do that, because then they're going to get a job. They're not going to know how to do that job.
You can tell when people aren't being honest and being forthright.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to suddenly be able to read everything off the screen and have their answers back, but it would be really helpful to be able to make bullet points and go, oh, you're going to ask me about that, well, I can now talk about that experience without having to feel just put on the spot and go, oh, which of the things I've done relate to that. It's just not.
It's horrible. It's
not
a horrible feeling.
I think it's also worth noting that a lot of these, and this might be a bit sensationalist, but a lot of these like big success stories that you hear of people who just managed to find themselves in a unique position, they blagged it at the interview, right? But they really wanted to do the job well. So when they got into the job, they learned on the job and did their best, and then they make a massive success out of it. And I think there is something about the amount of focus that's put on job-specific experience that people seem to have, where it's just like, oh, you haven't actually got industry experience, which is like, but you can learn technicalities within mere weeks and months of doing a job. But like, what is the work ethic? Are you actually going to turn up? Do you know how to think creatively? Do you know how to include people? Do you know how to deal with conflict? All of those kind of things that really make a really like good worker in an organization can easily be missed from these sort of like, you specifically have to have done this, because if you haven't had this experience, then you wouldn't understand this. And there's situations where that's deeply relevant, but I do sometimes wonder how much easier life would just be for everyone involved, really, if they focused on what they needed to get the job done, rather than what they felt will look good or what they think they will benefit from. Like, what do you actually need for the role to happen? And people have done it in different ways. I just thought it was worth highlighting that I'd heard of an organization, it was just on Twitter some time ago, where as part of the interview, people had to do like a design sort of exercise, and they paid people for their time. even the people who didn't get the job, like they paid people for
Yeah.
their time and did what Jem just said about giving them the questions before they even came through. And it's just so valuable, because even if I don't get the job, if I meet someone who I think would be a good fit, or if I hear about you hiring the next time, I'll be a massive cheerleader, because I know that you would be a good boss if I was working for you.
Mm-hmm.
But
Can I just come in on that point? So in my job, I had to have facilitation experience, and I feel really privileged to have got the job because I said, I've got facilitation experience. I'm a poetry teacher. That is not the same thing. It's not like they could have been going, well, you facilitated business workshop. No, but I can take a room full of people with mental health issues and work with them over the course of 12 weeks and get them published. Like, that's facilitation. It's the same skill. So let's think more broadly about the skill sets that we're looking for, and not just the specific projects that you've done.
Yeah, I think you know, even on job descriptions and job adverts, there's a lot of copying and pasting that happens without any thought. You know, what one of my bugbears is degrees. You know, if you think about the cost of going to university at the moment, it is so prohibitive. I can't say that word, forgive me. For a number of people. And then, you know, you maybe just without thought throw away, oh yeah, well, you know, why not? We need a degree. And you don't really. There is so few roles out there that actually require some kind of university degree, but either through habit or through, I don't know, any other reason. And you are just putting off so many talented people for all the reasons that we've talked about, who've got all kinds of different wealth of experience to bring, but you've just copied and pasted something and waxed it on a job advert and without any thought.
I was just going to use myself as an example. So this happened a couple of weeks ago, you know, and it's just to talk more about this. You get job advert and then you apply for the job. So this agency recruiter posted a job advert and I applied for the job, and he messaged me, okay, yeah, your CV looks all right. Have you got industry experience? I'm like, okay, I haven't got the industry experience. However, I have done this. So it's more of a DevOps position in tech. So I've been able to build my website myself, host the website, use AWS services. I know some of these AWS services, just those little basic, the fundamentals that will get you into the job. So I sent this to him and he replied again, no, have you got industry experience? So, you know, so without that industry experience, I'm not going to get the job, even if I know the fundamentals. So if you give me a little, and I've shown you my project, I sent my website off to him, you know, this is my website, this is what I've done. But, you know, you just make life difficult for some people to get into the industry.
100%. And you know. I think, I imagine that was probably like a junior job as well. So I obviously face that quite a lot with our students. There's companies that we'll work with exclusively, because they go for people with they'll go for people with experience, without experience at university, whereas people will say, oh, you're a boot camper, we're not going to be right, we only want people who've got degrees. But people who've done the boot camps have worked for 6 months full time and then had part-time jobs at the same, and then done this course part-time and done an additional 20 hours of learning a week, and they don't think those people are going to be right for the jobs when their whole life has become software development, and they've changed their careers and they've cut things out of their life and they're not the right fit. And it's like, are they not the right fit because they might potentially be the wrong age, they might have come from a different background? Like, why would they not be the right company and right person to join your company? It baffles me. But then it's I don't want to send people to those businesses then. I don't want you to go work for them because then they don't seem right.
I've got a degree, but it's naffle to do with the job that I do. So, you know, does that make me more or less qualified? You know, I think that's it.
I think that's most people. So we have had a question in that's just said, I can't click it. I'm hoping to become my company's first D&I champion, only a small team and hoping to grow. Do you have any tips on where I need to start? So I don't know if anyone has a point.
I think we've kind of covered it a little bit. It's about doing that work. It's about bedding yourself in different cultures, in different experiences, in different understandings. And just, it's not about going off and reading one book in particular that will suddenly give you all of the knowledge that you need. Don't get me wrong, I would recommend books, and I might do it a bit at the end. But I think it's just about breathe it all the time. Read up on diversity and inclusion all the time. Read up on injustice all the time, and then work out, well, do we do that in our organisation? What can I do to prevent that? There's actually a report coming out tomorrow as part of Wild Digital and Diverse and Equal. They've written a report around racial diversity in Leeds Digital, and I went to the report launch this week, and it was absolutely amazing. And it's broken down some ideas around diversity into things around culture, around power, around representation. And I think that framing, particularly for me, the power one, because I find that something I've talked about a lot since I've started my role, because we do a lot of member involvement at Crisis, which is where we include people with that current lived experience of homelessness, and thinking about, where does the power lie in an organisation? Who should have that power? And power includes the resources and the money. So if we ensure that the power is where it should be, people feel they have the power to speak up and not feel threatened, like their superiors won't feel threatened by that, then that's how we can create inclusive cultures. And I'm really excited to read the full report, which comes out tomorrow. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Me too. I'll make sure I send a link round to that for everyone who's signed up for the event as well, so they can get a copy of that when it comes out tomorrow.
I think
I quite like the point Jem brought about, where I started the point where, if you look at your organization, are the juniors in the organization afraid to talk to someone in this, that's got a bigger position? Once that is in your organization, then you have a problem. Everybody should be free to speak and talk to, go to anyone, ask questions, feel free, because the more you feel free to express yourself, the better everybody works together. But if I've got something I'm hiding, if I'm scared to talk to somebody, then you are not going to get my full potential. I won't be able to give it off.
Definitely, you'll end up leaving as well.
That's it.
Yeah. And it's just another number of someone that's just left their business. And I think having conversations as well is really important. In my opinion, I think you need to speak to people in your business. Where do they think that your business is lacking? Where do they think there could be better policies? And they're the person who are living and working in this job every single day, so they're usually the first point of contact, in my opinion, is where do they see improvements that can be made immediately. So that's always a good point to sort of start with.
I think the other point around champions is that I've seen in other organisations is like all the accountability for diversity and inclusion ends up with that person. And I think actually it needs to be the total opposite. Of course, if you're trying to drive change or a specific culture from one point, you're on a hiding to nothing. So champions can be really powerful, but make sure that you don't fall into that trap.
Definitely. Cool. And then Catherine Denver has put some comments just in the section, which is just that I'm a network chair and an equality lead in my organisation. One thing I try to do is think about what I don't know much about and then research that. So look at organisations doing work in LGBT, inclusion, gender equality, anti-racism, and look at their resources and sign up for mailing lists. Definitely agree with that point as well. So thank you, Catherine. Cool. So I'll move on to the next question, which is, how do you believe we can start to create inclusive cultures?
Let everybody in.
Yeah.
Let everyone in. Let them bring their talent.
I wish life was that simple. Yeah, but no, you're right. And talent is such a good word.
Yeah.
And hidden talent and junior talent and talent that isn't always on a piece of paper that you're going to read. So the CV thing, I guess, comes down to that. But definitely. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say that I think the first port of call is to set the intention to be inclusive. You have to proactively decide that you are going to be an inclusive like culture and you're going to have that in your organization, rather than say, oh, we're going to do this project or we're going to do this thing or we're going to invite more diverse people. You have to actually decide. Now, I'm a big fan of policy because I like law and I like being able to go, but you said this. But I think it's so valuable to like recognize that it's not necessarily it's not an easy thing being open-minded, and it's not an easy thing being able to be inclusive, because you will have challenge. And the more diverse the workforce, the bigger your workforce is, the more diverse the people are, the more room there is for conflict and all of that stuff that we really, especially in the UK, we're trained just not to deal with. We're not trained to have conflicts in spaces. We're not trained to have fights where you agree to disagree. It's very linear over here. So I think it's really important that from the very outset, you just say, okay, we are going to be inclusive. And when we say inclusive, we mean inclusive. We're going to let not inclusive. We're going to let people who are under 25 to come do apprenticeships and not pay them well, kind of inclusive. So I think it's important to set the intention from the outset. And once you set the intention, you can then look at everything you do from that inclusivity lens. Because then anytime you're doing something, you'll know to challenge yourself. Are we being inclusive? But if it's a thing where you've sort of like created a project where you're going to have a D&I champion, for example, and you said, oh, we're going to get a D&I champion. If you haven't made a determination to be inclusive across the organization, as Victoria said, it's going to fall on them to be like the person doing work that they're not being paid for, that is going to, because it's such necessary work, they're definitely going to get overloaded. And then it becomes a thing of, oh, actually, this is not practical. We don't have the budget. And then the project's ended and your inclusivity program is over now. So, I think intention is like a really, really big thing.
Yeah.
I think as well, sorry, Victoria.
Go on, keep going.
It's just that inclusion's more important than diversity. You have to get your inclusion right to keep the diversity. And I think so many people are like, oh, but look, we're a really diverse team, but everybody's leaving because you're not inclusive, and you have to get that right. And I think that has to be the first step, instead of just being like, right, okay, we look at this team of people that we've got now. We've got like different people on the board. It's just like, well, they're all leaving after a couple of months because they've realised that it's not actually embedded into your system as a business or into your organisation. And I think that's a big thing.
It is. It isn't a project on the side of someone's desk. It is a way of operating every single day, and it is in every single form you've created. It's in every single policy you've written. It's in every single conversation that you have. For example, traditional management. Think about a one-to-one with your line manager. Quite often those conversations are purely focused around performance. Let's bring out the KPIs, etc. And I think, I think we forget sometimes that employees have a life outside of work, and actually to make people feel included and comfortable in the workplace, we need to treat them as a whole person. It's something crazy like 1 in 3 people have got caring responsibilities outside of work. So are we asking about those on a regular basis? Not being nosy about people's lives, but saying, how are you finding the balance? How can I help you? I care about you as a whole person, not just, I don't just care about your KPIs and what you've delivered this month.
Yeah, I think we've all lived in a time of like working hard and not having a social life, and being so career driven is like the goal, and that's what we should all achieve to do. And it's like, I've never been like that, and I thought it was because I was lazy. And it's just like, actually, I just enjoy living my life and seeing my family and my friends, and I love my job, but it isn't me. It isn't who I am as a person. My job's an element of me, but I don't want it to control my life. I don't want it to be my everything. And so many businesses push that idea that they want you to work all day and all night, and people can't. People physically can't do it for many reasons.
But they do it though.
Yeah, they do, because they feel like they have to.
And it's bananas. You should just tell everyone, don't do overtime ever.
I know. Unless you're getting paid loads, then maybe. So does anyone have any examples of where they've seen like inclusive cultures like have been created really well. Jem, I don't know if that's a hand up or like
it is a hand up, and I
Yeah,
really want to
nice.
on it because the panel about racial diversity on Monday absolutely knocked my socks off. There was a chap there called Charles Agbu. He's the Vice Chancellor of Leeds Trinity University, and we were talking at great length about how, you know, and tackling racism is a marathon, not a sprint, and these conversations that we've been having for a really long time. And he made this amazing point, and he said marathons have stopping points where you refresh yourself, where you have water, and those are the places where you go, where am I, what have I done, how is it going, I'm going to keep on doing this. And he said we need to build these into the work that we're doing around diversity. And one of the ways he said he'd done that at the university was he completely upended the structure. So, you know, when we talk about inequality, we're talking about structural stuff here. And he said on his board, instead of having an exec sponsor for diversity and inclusion, he had created I might get this wrong, I think it's the Institute of Structural Equality. And the person in charge of that sits on the board, and every time they have a conversation, they're having a conversation with the EDI lens. And honestly, I could have just stood up from my chair and this is the thing, like having an exec sponsor in charge of D&I isn't the same thing as having somebody sitting there going, do it every day, do it all the time. So I was so good.
And I think a lot of the like D&I champions and ambassador things, these people don't get paid any extra for doing it. They just get lumped with this job because they've got an interest in it. So pay your people, and I'm pretty sure the business will be a lot better if you do that as well. I think that's huge. It's just like, they just put like a random person in the business who may have lived experiences, but no real knowledge, has to do their full-time job and then also tackle this massive company issue, sort of by themselves.
Yeah, I was just gonna use myself as an example again. You know, now I'm in the coding world, in the tech world.
Welcome.
This is all. Thank you. You know, and this is all with the help of Code Your Future. You know, Code Your Future, non-profit organization that helps people, you know, disadvantaged people, deprived members of the society. They want to help you get into tech. You know, and that's, you know, it's a diverse community where you don't pay for nothing. You know, you just come, do your training and all that, and at the end of the training, they still help you get a job as well. And also, you know, myself as an example, I managed to find myself in Capgemini, and I've just learned that Capgemini has won one of the companies that they've won 9 years in a row, the diverse company or something like that. You know, like their diversity and inclusion for 9 years in a row. So they are there to take people from all over the world, all walks of culture, and train you as well, you know, for you to fit into their organization. So yeah, I'm an example.
Nice one, really good. And perfect example. But Code Your Future do some amazing work. So I'll make sure I send those details across. I'll do a roundup email of all the stuff that we're talking about. But no, congratulations. That's really, you found a job quite quickly after completing the course as well, didn't you?
Yes, you can. You know, they help you source for jobs as well.
Yeah. Okay.
I do have an example of one shared with me where Paper Studio, they are a service designer, user research outfit, and they had a job advert, and they titled it was the job with no name. And they weren't looking for something specifically, and apparently they'd initially put it out, but when they put it out, they weren't getting the type of candidates that they wanted. And I think that goes back to the point of when you're going to be specifically inclusive and you look at everything you're doing with that inclusive lens, when you feel like you're not being inclusive, you're able to catch it, even though you have the policies, because you're looking at things through that lens all the time. And because they caught it, they ended up sending out like a new job advert. I think you still find it on their website. And they put down all the skills that they were looking for the particular role. And they then asked for like a specific experience. And they ended up finding someone who's now been with the organization, I think about 3 or 4 years now. That is just one of like their mega stars. They're all mega stars over there, really. But it's a thing of, by living and breathing that inclusivity, and wanting that diversity in their work, just specifically gone out of their way. Like, everyone's got work to do, and you're not going to get it perfect every single time. But by scrutinizing what you're doing and being intentional about it, you're closer. You're much closer than you would be otherwise. So that was like an example that got shared with me, and I thought, ooh, I wonder if you could just advertise for jobs all the time, just like the job with no name, and it's just a bunch of skill sets.
Yeah.
I
Like,
love
know
that.
it'd be a nightmare for algorithms. But
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to ring somebody up from like a recruiter's perspective, like, this is a job with no name. But yeah, no, it's I love that. That's so cool. But yeah, Victoria, did you have something to add on that?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh no, it's fine. Don't worry. Sorry, I know. I thought you were speaking earlier. We've had some nice just comments, just complimenting everybody on our conversation in the side as well. So Annie said, yes, Gem D&I execs are really effective exactly for that reason. That professor has the right idea. Sajid, sorry if I'm.
I just want to come in on that because I didn't say the professor I was talking about was the first black vice chancellor in the whole of the UK. So that was amazing. The fact that he's had that experience and now is just baking that into everything he does, so that everybody gets to be along with him. It's not just about I talked a bit about grassroots, but you do also need the people at the top. Not pulling the ladder up, but putting extra ladders down.
Yeah,
yeah, I love that metaphor. That's a good one. And Saji, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name just then. But interesting topic in discussion. Well done to all. Thank you. That's very nice to say. So, has anyone got any reading materials, groups, podcasts, anything they'd like to recommend to people who sort of looking to start this journey, people who'd like to know a little bit more about it, maybe people who want to start raising issues with their business? I like that thought. But yeah, is there anything anybody wants to recommend? I know, Jem, you mentioned the Wild report, so I'll make sure I send that across. But has anybody got anything else?
I cannot begin to big up Shireen Daniels anymore. She's
amazing.
Yes. I met her.
Oh, you met her?
No, I was supposed to be doing a call. Oh. I was supposed to be doing a podcast with her, but it was 2 weeks before. I met her 2 weeks before the murder of George Floyd, and I messaged her and I said, "Look, I totally get if you aren't in the headspace to do this." So we had a really good chat about that. And since then, she has been doing like daily videos and podcasts.
She works hard.
She just put a conference called Advancing Racial Equity, which is about starting from where you stand. So don't go, oh, well, we're really bad at diversity and inclusion, so we don't know where to start. We just go, you've decided, make that start. But everything, like she's just phenomenal and an absolute powerhouse, and she's brilliant. And yeah, her podcast is HR Rewired, I think. So check that out.
Nice.
So for me, there's a couple on gender that so Caroline Criado Perez, she wrote a book called Invisible Women, exploring or exposing data bias in gender, and it is fascinating. You get really cross at points throughout the book and have to kind of put it down, but it's really interesting. And then there's someone else as well called Dr. Jessica Taylor, and she wrote a book called Why Women Are Blamed for Everything. She does a lot of work around violence against women and how actually that kind of filters into wider society, and is why women don't
I'm just going to stop you there. She is a bit of a turf, so sorry.
Fine, okay.
I think when we're talking about feminist spaces and people talking about women's issues, because women's issues include trans women issues, they do. Sure. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Also, you made the point then about violence towards women and stuff like that, which is a massive topic which is never brought up in within sort of D&I and things like that. Because I've got somebody that I spoke to who was in the most awful abusive relationship and just had to quit her job completely, and she lost everything. And then she wasn't accepted back into tech community for a very long time. And that's something that's very rarely ever spoken about. But I guess it does fit into this category as well. probably not the right word, but
Yeah,
into this
'cause
conversation. It's such a big
barrier.
topic, and it's never spoken about. Violence in relationships is never spoken about in work, or violence at home, or wherever you are. It's so prevalent, and you know the statistics that you hear, and it's never spoken about. It's never a conversation that's had.
Yeah,
I do think.
Go on, sorry.
Oh, go on. And I was just going to say that. When it comes to this idea of inclusivity and diversity, it can be because of how big a thing it is and how far I think as a society we are from being truly diverse and equal, and diverse and inclusive. It can feel almost insurmountable. So people just sort of like compartmentalize a challenge. And I think it is, for example, just what Jem was saying about the woman whose name I've forgotten being a TERF. It's a thing of when you get into like the battle bubble, sometimes because things can feel so big, you can very much hone in on the zone of the challenge that you're facing, and you end up being exclusive in a way that sometimes is intentional and sometimes it's unintentional, but nevertheless the exclusion has already happened. It can feel like people can feel like they have to just sort of like narrow their focus to make sure they can get some sort of progress done, which I do agree with to a certain extent, because you can't do everything, but you can network and connect with people who are doing other stuff and ensure bases are covered. And I think that's something that I definitely want to put out there as a thing of, if you're in a space and you're fighting for certain equalities and you're getting called out for dropping the ball in something else, or you feel like you should be doing more, chances are there's someone else who's doing that thing that you wish you could be helping with. Connect with them, liaise with them, amplify them, and they can amplify you, and bases can get covered, rather than trying to be the one person who is battling all the protector characteristics and healing everyone.
As your additional job on top of your full-time job is the DNA.
And it's just the world is made. I just feel like the world is made to currently it's made to be unfair, and it's working quite efficiently at being unfair. So trying to put any balance in place is going to be hard. So I definitely want to put that out there, that it ain't easy.
And you made such a good point then about other people who are doing what you would like to do, so reach out to them. And I think the community as a whole, and people who are involved in D&I, and people who are passionate about it, you can find those people quite easily on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I think I found Jem on Twitter or LinkedIn, and that's how we started speaking. And then you get introduced to someone else and to someone else, and there is a lovely, helpful group of community of people that can help you and would like to help you, which I think is always worth mentioning.
I think a big thing we haven't talked about, or maybe we have, but kind of crossways, is intersectionality.
Definitely.
Making sure where you are including people, you're not excluding people, and thinking about how different layers of diversity can mean that people can struggle more. So, for example, a woman has an issue in the workplace, but a Black woman has more of an issue in a workplace. I was speaking to one of my colleagues recently, and she's a Black woman, and she was talking about not feeling confident to be assertive at work. And because of a lot of the work that I've done in diversity and inclusion, it meant that I could raise the topic of conversation around how Black women are seen as aggressive when they're being assertive, and we could have that conversation, so that I felt like it meant she didn't have to do the emotional labor of like explaining that situation to me, because it's embedded in the stuff that I know. But then we could have a really open and honest conversation about where the boundaries are and how we can stretch to make her feel comfortable in the workspace to be assertive without having that hopefully constant niggle of, but I don't want to be seen to be this thing because because of racism.
There's a Joanne Lockwood is on LinkedIn, and I follow her on LinkedIn. She is trans woman, and there was a post that she commented on because it came up on my LinkedIn the other day. This is convoluted conversation. Hopefully you're following me. But there was somebody who had basically done a poll, and long story short, it was basically asking people to rank which they thought was the most prolific piece kind of challenge in their organization. So it was like, click here for race and click here for, and it was, and Joanna quite rightly called it out, and that's why it kind of came up on my
I
post.
know who you mean by Joanne, yeah.
Yeah, and I read it and I was just like, oh my goodness me, it was really misplaced, but it just made me think about that post.
It's a right-wing talking point. Like,
yeah.
All we're going to be doing is hiring black women in wheelchairs because of the diversity agenda. It's like,
no.
Probably would do a better job, but anyway.
Just the best people means the best people. It doesn't mean the same people, and it doesn't mean people went to the poshest uni and stuff those people.
Definitely. I feel like I need to say that I enjoyed my experience at university, because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm saying don't go to uni or anything like that. But I love my experience. I do not love the debt that came with it, but it is a thing.
Yeah.
I think my experience at university is part of what makes me such a good worker right now, because of the process that I had to go to and the network that I got to build and the things that I got to do because of the fairly cocooned and unique setup. Like, it's a really odd setup university when you think about it. It's a really specialist space to be in and whatnot. But you don't usually need a piece of paper to tell you that you can do a good job. You can probably get away without it.
Have you ever had your degree checked? I never went to university and I was so scared I wasn't going to get a job. So I was just like, maybe I could just put, I haven't done this, by the way, this is a long time ago. I was like, I could just put it on my CV and I'm sure no one would ever check. I haven't done that on my CV now.
No, I don't think anybody's ever asked me.
No, I don't think they have either. I did get my GCSEs checked once. I was like, why do you want to know that?
God, I couldn't tell you when my GCSE certificates are if you paid me. The only way you can tell I've got my degree is because it's in creative writing and Japanese literature, and I talk about Japanese literature all the time.
You just live it, yeah. You're living your degree. So if anyone has any other comments or anything they'd like to add, we are just going to start finishing up. Kirsty's posted a really nice comment. It just said, fantastic conversation. Such interesting thoughts about how to structure job interviews and how to attract talent. Super excited for the race report. We'll definitely be tweaking how we do this going forward. Such great tips that can be implemented straight away. Victoria's point on inclusion coming through on every word on your website and job advert really resonated with me. And that's very true.
Especially on the job advert one, if you focus on removing some, don't put the names, don't put your name, just focus on the skills. What skills do you want? Or say if you got a CV or you're CVing through CVs, just remove the names and then focus on what the people have on their CVs. That way you get the best out of them.
My heart kind of wants to say that shouldn't matter. I can put whatever name I want to put on there.
Yeah.
Me if I'm the person,
I know.
Might be too far.
I know, right?
Now, but it's similar to the conversation around saying it's so financially beneficial to hire a diverse work group. It's like matter.
It's just it's a horrible thing that we even have to say that. So it's a horrible thing that we even have to say it. It's like ugh.
But I wanted to just wrap up with regards to resources for D&I, because of the space that I'm in is largely the sort of like the vocational community social enterprise type space. My experience of diversity and inclusion is maybe slightly different, because a lot of the people that I work with are doing like strictly value-based work as opposed to private companies. And so we may get to have a lot more of our heart in what we're doing as opposed to private companies that have like bottom lines to deal with. And I would say whatever area you're living in the United Kingdom or wherever you are, there is bound to be a diversity and inclusion network or diversity and inclusion lead for your local council. They're all of these people, and to be honest, they're desperate for people to get in touch with them and help them do their work better. So if you're looking to really go into that space and see what you can do practically locally to support the diversity and inclusion of your community, reach out, do the work. It's not much, but you can get so much done and help our world just sort of like shift.
Aishatu, you said value-based life to me on our first conversation, and I've got that written on a board in front of me because I loved it. I never heard heard that phrase before, and I wrote it down on my board, and I
I
stare
don't
at it every
own it.
single day and think of you. No, it was something I never, I guess, heard of, thought of before. And that's just an exit discussion. Well done, everyone. Do each of you have a last takeout if there's time? I'll start with this one. For me, education is huge. Educate yourself. Always educate others. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to challenge people if you don't think something's right, and accept challenges from other people as well. I think for me, that's my sort of main point. Chisholm?
For me is look for talent. Don't look for individual. Look for the talent. Once you get the talent, you're getting the best of both worlds. Don't look for individual. Look for the talent that you want.
Okay.
For me, it's about not treating diversity and inclusion as a project. It's a way of being and a way of operating, a way of believing.
Great. Aisha too? You kind of just said yours, haven't you? You can do another.
Yeah, I feel
You've
like
got another
this
in
isn't fair.
you.
Do I have to do another one? No,
You've got another one in you.
No, I think I just wanted to. I was about to say similar to what Victoria said in terms of the change will only come from us changing as people. If you are more inclusive by default, your work would be more inclusive. If you think more diversely, you'll do better by just being better. So if you can focus on yourself and making that change and doing the work for yourself as an individual, you're more likely to help us out as a society.
Great point. Thank you. And Jen?
And I guess my point, and it's the one that's tattooed on me, is do the work. Do the reading, do the, go out and talk to people, find out what everybody's going through, and really think about how you can make a difference. That might be speaking for your colleagues. That might be saying something when you see that something isn't right. It might be likewise, like going, that's really good. I think that's a really good thing that we're doing at the organisation. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. But just always advocate for everybody as best as you can.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for joining me. I've had such a good time. It was lovely speaking to you all. I think we made some really good points there as well. So like I mentioned earlier, I will put everything that we spoke about onto some kind of email and try and get it out to everybody today. The event is now on YouTube, so you can catch up with this. Feel free to share it with your teams. If you would like to speak to any of us, I'm sure all of us are happy to have a conversation. So I'll make sure you've all got links to our LinkedIn accounts as well, or personal Twitters or whatever. But feel free to always contact myself. So my name is Alice. Feel free to always contact me if you would like to speak on this topic, because it is something I'm super passionate about. I'm sure the same goes for everybody. But thank you so much for watching. Thanks for joining me, my lovely panel.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.